Has the modern NFL place kicker become too good at his job? Some still can't even hit consistently from inside 42, but there are some freaks out there with some big legs that are launching them from 60 plus. Our New York Post sports columnist Mike Vaccaro has a column up on the Post website about how to fix the NFL's 60-yard field goal problem. Mike, thanks for hopping on with us. I can't wait to get your thoughts on this one. I read the article, so I already know. But for the people at home, we see kickers miss routine extra points from 33 yards out, and some even miss the chip shots under 42. So hitting from 60 wasn't so normal back in the day, but what problems does having kickers that can hit from 60 plus present to the modern game? I actually think it's good for football.
Yeah, look, I mean, if you like seeing kickers dominate the game, then it's wonderful. And look, I mean, there's nothing wrong. They're only doing their jobs. They have to be very good at it now. I mean, the turfs are better than they used to be. A lot of games inside domes, and these kickers don't look doughy like slow pitch softball leaguers like they used to back in the day. But all of that said, I mean, especially when you combine it with the fact that now with the new NFL kickoff rules, so many drives are starting from the 30, 35-yard line. You combine the two, basically you're one first down away from being in scoring position. I'm not really sure that's the way football is supposed to be. I think field goals are supposed to be a little more challenging than they are. I get it. You have your outliers now who still miss their 40-yard field goals and so forth. And I'm sure Buffalo Bills fans will tell you chapter and verse about how easy field goals are. But all of that said, I mean, you have this preponderance now of kickers who not only make it from 60, but make it with room to spare. So we're not far away from 65 yarders becoming commonplace, and probably 70 yarders becoming in play now too. And again, I'm not sure that one first down and in was necessarily the way these games are supposed to go. But I mean, look, I mean, in the same way that people want to outlaw the tush push, and they've outlawed other things in other sports that became too routine. I mean, I don't know if they're going to do this with kicking, but it's certainly something that I think is on people's minds.
So do you think this is more of a problem or more of just the evolution of the game? Because Odell Beckham Jr., I feel like, made the one-hand catch just routine, and now you have everyone doing it, and that's just
Right.
because guys are practicing it now better. So do you think that, like the NFL, the rules committee will look at this or identify this as a problem, or do you think it's just something that they have to chalk up as the evolution of where the game is now today?
I think it's down their priority list. I mean, I think first and foremost is probably either modifying or getting rid entirely of the tush push, which has become a real hot button issue now every week because not only is it hard to defend, but it's hard to referee. It's hard to legislate. So on every one of these tush pushes now, I mean, there's 17 penalties, and that's not good for the game either. So I think that's probably going to be the focus of their attention immediately. But I think it's on the list, especially if we see this year play out. And you see more and more 17-yard drives that result in points and weren't, started by a turnover. So, look, I mean, it's happened before in other sports. For a while, they outlawed the dunk in basketball. That was probably not a good idea, but they did widen the lane in basketball when guys like George Mikan and Will Chamberlain made it just too easy for big men. In baseball, they lowered the pitcher's mound when pitchers became too dominant. It's not unheard of to do that. I know kickers won't like to hear it, but you know what? I'm sure they would probably adjust to the new rules just as well.
So for the rules committee, when they meet in March or May of next year, let's say they agree and they say that, you know what, hitting from 60 is becoming a problem. This isn't we want the game to be. What would you suggest for the rule change? Maybe like narrowing the goalposts?
Yeah, it's funny. I've actually got a bunch of replies from readers, and some of them are interesting, and some of them are a little far out, but they're all, fun to talk about. I mean, look, I mean, I think if we want to make it the game look the same, and pretty much just change the difficulty, narrow the goalposts and make the goalposts higher. I think those two things right away would at least make it a little more challenging. Now, of course, the problem with that is a lot of these really ace field goal kickers, everything they kick is right down the middle, so it might not make much of a
Mm-hmm.
difference. But I think maybe you start there and you see if that makes it a little bit more of a challenge for kickers that have these big legs now. And look, not every team has one, and so look, I guess you have to reward the teams who are able to identify big legs in their kickers. But I just think it's a different game than it was intended to be when, you only have to move the ball 10, 15, 20 yards, and suddenly you're in scoring range.
I just remember when Sebastian Janikowski was drafted in the first round out of Florida State. I was a kid back then, and that was kind of unheard of at the time. That we can only imagine if guys are doing it or able to do this in college, then it's only a matter of time until a team uses a first-round draft pick again on a kicker. You mentioned Tush Push and how that's in the news every single week. In fact, we did a breakdown on it earlier this week. So what would you say is worse for the game right now, the Tush Push or kickers hitting from 60 plus?
Well, the Tush Push. Look, I mean, and I've always been. I think I was maybe the last defender of the Tush Push, in the context of the Eagles are very good at it.
Yep.
The Bills have a guy that you would imagine would be unstoppable at it. Also, there's definitely a skill to it when it's done properly, but it's impossible to legislate now. I mean, that Eagles Chiefs game last week, every time they did it, there were 3 guys jumping off sides on defense and 4 guys moving early on offense, and the referees just can't keep up. They pretty much just let anything happen now. And that's not good either because it's become kind of farcical, which is a shame because I think that if it's able to be legislated, it's actually a good weapon for teams that have a very unique skill set to have. But I just don't think they can legislate it properly. It's impossible to do, and I think that's become the problem, and it's just become too much of a distraction week to week. And I still think you can have elements of the Tush Push without it being this full-blown rugby play, and I think that's the thing you hear now. Is that it's turning the game into rugby, and I don't think anybody wants that. So I think that's going to be a real issue that they have to deal with. I mean, it almost died last year. I think it's going to be in real trouble this year because, look, I mean, the Eagles are the best team in football, so you're gonna hear about them every week. You're going to see them every week, and if the dominant conversation isn't how good Saquon is, or how good Hurts is, or the defense is, it's the Tush Push. That's not good for anybody.
You have a lot of Giants fans, or you've made a lot of fans from Giants fans who are like, yeah, ban the Tush Push and ban kickers kicking from 60 plus because they're still hurting from whatever it is we saw this past Sunday. Mike, thanks for hanging out with us.
Sure, Brandon. Anytime. Have a good weekend.